So this could be an image of shapes, couldn't it? Yeah, yeah.
changed mats. I know there was a request. Do you want, anybody want them? Like Robin, somebody? Just, sorry, two? Okay, and one.
The other thing I was going to mention, that hand in for print number 2 is tonight, so if you don't, it's probably a bit late to mat these ones, but hopefully everything. That's cool. And the other hand-ins that are coming up is PI number 4, which is landscape, is 2 weeks tonight on the 29th. Okay. Alan, do you want to talk about the...
This is more for those that are watching on YouTube, I think, because I've spoken to everybody here. If you're going to the fungi trip and you haven't paid, you need to do so in the next couple of days. Okay, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Okay.
I would have got Rach to do something about it, but she's not here, so yeah.
Cool. Okay. Upcoming, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, next week's 7 o'clock session is the Wigram car thing that Paul's going to talk about. So lots of pictures of cars will be good to see. And the second part of next week is going to be preparing images for the upcoming exhibition. Where's Penny? Do you want to say a couple of things? She snuck out. She just dropped the pictures off possibly and then had to head away. Okay, so she'll be talking more about the process of getting your images ready for, well, what to do in the exhibition. We'll show you preparing images to go to a printer to get printed, and we're going to talk about some options as far as matting, etc., etc. The point that Penny's going to make, but I'll make now to get started, is that the idea is that this exhibition is for everybody. So if you don't print or you don't enter a print, but you've still got a favourite image that did really well for you in the projecteds, there's no reason we can't make a print of that, and that's what we're looking at next week. So I want everybody to start thinking about which image that I've made I want to be exhibited. So that'll be the 7 o'clock session next week, and the 8 p.m. is PI number 3. And the week after, on the 29th, there's going to be a really interesting session. It goes from 7 p.m. through, it's both sessions, and Jeff Cloak is coming up from Timaru to talk all about the progress of AI. So that'll be controversial and interesting. So looking forward to that. Okay. Right. Taking off my MC hat and introducing myself as the judge for the C grade. That's done. First of all, I just want a bit of an intro on, for a start, how many C graders are here? Hands up. And keep your hands up if you've got something in tonight. Okay. Hopefully there's a few on the streaming that are watching it. So the point I want to talk about is the intent of this C grade competitions, because they're a little bit different to the other competitions in the system, and to actually encourage those C graders who put their hands up for saying I'm C grade and took them out again when they said, did I enter in this competition? I want you all to be entering in the next one, or feel that you can anyway. So this is a slight different from normal competitions in that the image that you get, no matter what happens here, they won't be going into the end of year exhibition. It's only the normal competitions and the grading in that system that works. So we have a slightly different grading system here. We have commended and highly commended. And there's a bit of scope for the judge to do whatever the judge wants to do with that commended and highly commended. So I'm going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to give everybody who entered a commended because you've done something that half the C graders here didn't do. So you should be commended for a start. But what I've also done is made the highly commended are the images that I feel, if I was the judge, I would probably give it an acceptance as it stands, as it comes forward. That's not a guarantee that if you put it in as it stands, some other judge won't be really nasty and not accept it, but I believe that it's at the acceptance standard. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. Okay, a couple of opportunities. I take this chance to talk about competitions and what I think about competitions, and there'll be a few people who've heard me say this before, but my philosophy is a little bit different. I've got this kind of weird objection to competitive art. I think it's a bizarre thing that photography organisations do, and it makes not a jot of sense when it comes to competing and saying who's better than somebody else. If you look at like a local art exhibition things, there's things that do happen that are sort of competitive. Like quite often you'll have a juried exhibition, so they've only got enough space for 100 pictures, so everybody enters and they choose the 100 they want to exhibit. That's a bit different, and that's how our accepted and not accepted system sort of came into play. That's what it is. We're being accepted into the juried exhibition of CPS work which is done on final night. That's where accepted sort of comes from. But all the other grades that have developed of various photography organisations, and it's pretty much typical to photography organisations, of having scores of 1 to whatever, or commended and highly commended and honours and blah, blah, blah. All that sort of stuff, for me, is completely pointless. I'd rather just talk about the picture. So what should you be looking for or expecting from putting your images into a competition? And for me, the advantage is, or the purpose is, that you're putting it before somebody who has agreed to look at it seriously to the extent that they're going to make some sort of a intelligent comment about it. You can show your picture to your partner or your mum, and they're going to say, wow, that's nice, and that's worth diddly squat. Or you show it to your kids and they'll say, that's crap, Dad. But equally, it's not worth much. You can pretty much guarantee what you're going to get. You put an image into a competition and a judge has looked at it, thought about it to the extent that they've had to do something. So there's something to be gained about that. Every image that you put in, you will have in your head what you wanted about it. You won't put in something you don't like. And if you put something in that means something in specifically to you, and the judge doesn't see it, the fact that he or she doesn't see it is significant in itself. They don't have to say anything about it. The fact that they didn't read it the way you did gives you an opportunity to learn something. And then you listen to what they've said, and then you can develop from there. So it is definitely about development. But don't be upset if the judge doesn't see it the way you do, because their life experience, to put them in front of the computer to look at your pictures, is vastly different from yours and always will be. So there's no guarantee that anybody will ever see it the way you did. So that's what I think is achieved by competitions. You get somebody to seriously look at it. A question that people regularly make is it good? Is this image any good? I'll put it in a competition to see if it's any good. Now, is it any good is a bit of a non-question as far as me. Any good at what is what you're kind of saying. For example, if you took a picture of your granddad that's an old black and white scratchy thing, and it was when your granddad was 15, and you found this picture of your granddad when he's 15, and it made you realise that your son when he was 15 looked a splitting image of your granddad, that image of your granddad is seriously good for you. Probably not going to win a competition, but it's seriously good for you. So the goodness thing just depends on your perspective about it. So if you like it, it's good. But if it's the sort of thing that is only going to be very specific like that, you may want to think about how that fits into a competition. Right, sermon over. Let's get on with the images. And I want to start with the prints, and I'm going to go and stand over there by the prints. They'll put them up here as a sort of a secondary thing. He can just hear me. I'm hiding from the camera. Can we put the first one up, please? Right, this is entitled Makes You Smile. And it's this little duckling thing here. And my comment here is, yep, all little animals are super cute. That's kind of that is a given, really, and that's what your image is telling us. it's a perfect capture. You've got the little duck superbly sharp, and I really love the reflection in it. See the little reflection in there? You can see it up there as well. But this is actually what it looks like. It's crisp and clear. Yeah, it's a natural history image. It had an NH on the thing. So one of the things about natural history images is that the ones that succeed tend to have a little bit of an element about what is the nature story. They show you particular elements of the animal or scene or whatever it is, but there's an element of nature story in it as well. And for this one, the nature story is simply, this is cute. That's a good story, but that's what the story is. So it's not as in-depth as some of the more successful ones are, but it's a really good picture. And that one got, like all of these did, what have we called it? Commended. So next one. Fiordland Valley. Okay, again, look at the little Fiordland Valley thing, and you'll notice that that's a bit brighter than the actual print is. That's a functionality of printing, because that's got kind of reflected light shining through it. This is bounced off, so it is kind of darker, and you need to be aware of that when you come to print it. And I imagine that standing here was really dramatic and fantastic. Yeah, this image I've said here, I can feel the drama that you saw, but I can't see it in the picture. Now, what you could do, you need to grab my experience and control what I'm looking at. And if you look at the front left-hand corner, it's more obvious here. If you just look at that thing, there's a relatively dark area and there's an interesting bit of light here. So where the light is, that's the opportunity to tell the story. So if the light were further down, and if the light pulled me down into the picture, I think it would more successfully tell the story. That's something to think about there. Right, misty morning. Right, this misty morning Okarito Lagoon. I really kind of love the layers in this. For me, there's almost 8 layers. There's the water, the sand, then there's the grasses, and then there's the flax, and then there's the flax fronds, whatever you call them, and trees, and then we've got a silhouetted tree line, then we've got a misty line, then we've got the sky. There's kind of 8 layers as we go through there. So it becomes an abstract of layers and lines, and in that respect, it's successful. An interesting thing to notice, if you look at the picture, even here from there, can anybody see the second bird, the more distant bird in the actual print? It's a bit hard in the print, isn't it? I even found this when I had just my screen in front of me. The second bird was really obvious in the screen, as it is there, but even with the print held at arm's length, I couldn't see it. So there's a difference you need to kind of think about. So for me, what I'm saying when I look at this, I love the layers, and now I want my eye pulled somewhere, and there's a couple of things that are doing the pulling, and looking up there, it's either the log or it's the bird. I think you need to control which one, decide which one of it is. It's an open competition, so you're quite welcome to take the log out. If you take the log out, then the bird, the sort of ambiguous bird facing away from us, which is a bird, it actually fits there. If you took the top bird and the log out, then I think it would be a great kind of eye-catch highlight that would allow me to explore and find the other things. As it stands at the moment, I got pulled immediately to the log, which is the area of greatest contrast. Quite often when you're making these photographs, you don't even see the thing that's really obvious. So that's what I did and what I saw, and I would think needs to happen to this one. It's misty morning. Tomtit. A lovely composition. I love the framing. I love these little branches, there's little bits all the way around the back. He's kind of framed right within it. There's none of his feathers or his tail or his feet, other than standing on his perch, intersect with those little lines, which is really good. There's a speckled background, so there's no blown out colours, but there's a speckled, simple background, and that works extremely well. The lighting on the bird is more obvious in this, which is a bit darker than it is up there. It's all kind of bright and flat, but definitely here there's some brighter colour in the front of the bird. There's a nice little highlight on it, and that's really good. So the whole way it's put together works really well. It's just when you look at the print, it's just that little bit soft. And when it comes to something like a bird like this, it has to be crisp. I don't think it's crispable. We're all in those sort of situations. You really love everything else, but it's not sharp. Sometimes you just got to go delete. So this is a really good learning thing. It felt to me, because there's no, like if you look at that from a distance where the sharpness is less apparent, the feet are pretty much the same amount of sharpness as the eye. So the whole thing was just that little bit soft. So I suspect it's a shutter speed softness which is caused there. Okay, the last one is called Heart of the Iris. And I really like this. It's got beautiful colours. It's beautifully sharp, particularly in this, whatever you call that. Is it the stamen? The middle bit of the orchid. The stunning of the centre of the image is absolutely stunning and really nice. There's some really cool stuff going on in there. But then I looked at it and it's just there's something kind of feels out. And I'm going to call it balance. It doesn't feel balanced to me. And when I kind of analyse that, I go, what's tipping things out? And for me, on the right-hand side, that big strip of background is all over the other side and all of the images on the left-hand side. And at the top, there's lots and lots and lots of the top of the iris thing that isn't adding that amount of, that's like a third of the frame at the top has done that, and it's pulling us away from the main thing, which is this little orange stamen thing, which is absolutely gorgeous. So let's get our cropping hands out, and I'm going, okay, there's a couple of areas that I'm finding I've got difficulty with, and crop it from the top, down, 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 and you can see on the right-hand petal there's a sort of a horizontal line, there's an upside-down L. You can sit either above that or slightly below it. I prefer below it, but up to everybody else to choose whether they want to go above or below. And then with your other hand, come in from the right, and then what I want you to do is think about how much is left of that empty space there, and how does that balance with the top left part of it. So I think if you bring it around to sort of a 5x4 crop and tighten it up a little bit, it's got honours material written all over it. But as it is at the moment, the balance topples things out for me. I wonder sometimes, we're using these mats that are a set standard, and one of the things I want to observe is sometimes pictures want to be unusual shapes. And this picture for me wants to be a 10x8 or a 5x4 portrait. You can.
I very, very rarely have a vertical picture that isn't 10x8.
Yeah, I'm the same, but yeah. So, yeah.
It's just too tall and narrow.
So, yeah, this is the downside of making set standard things. There's a whole bunch of pluses, and this is the downside which we kind of know about. But I'm just telling, let's have a bit of a think about it. And when you put your images there, talk to the image and get it to tell you what shape it wants to be. You can do that in Lightroom with your crop tool and wait till it sings, because I think when you get it to the place that it works, this one really will sing.
One of the guys that used to be a member here told me once, don't be scared to strangle the baby.
Yeah. So this baby doesn't need strangling, it needs rescuing. So, yeah.
Experiment with your crop.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's the conclusion of the prints. Well done to those who printed, because stepping up with the prints is good. Right. So the projecteds Yeah. Can I leave that on so I can got enough light to read this by? I'm just hoping they'll come up in the right order. Yeah, they did. Rain coming, Okarito Lagoon. I absolutely adore the dramatic light in this. The clouds in the background, you've just got that right balance of crisping up the contrast, and there's a lovely band of light right along the shore. And the aspect ratio of that 16:9 crop works really well. I enjoy the balance of the water with the rest of it. That's kind of a 1/3, 2/3 thing. And there's some interest in the foreground water, which makes sense with the whole thing. There's a whole bunch of things that I've said there that are kind of positive. And what is it that I'm losing? I'm losing the fact that my eye kind of roves around without anything in particular to land on. And when I do that, I notice little things that take me in weird places. Now, the little things, can I borrow your pointer? Do you need it? Okay, righto. Let's get high tech. See these little sticks here? There's another one over there. I suddenly found them when I looked at the whole thing, and because they joined this area here and this area here, they're kind of like things on the edge of a frame for me. They create some tension points, and I noticed them, and they're not important. I actually think this little post here is actually strong enough as an anchor by itself. Be better if a bird was sitting on it or something else, but whatever. That's still okay. I think this is a strong enough anchor, provided it's not distracted by anything else. So my suggestion is get rid of those, and I think it's probably enough in itself. Or if you're there and you're standing there looking at this scene, go, what is it that I can make a strong visual hook of, and then just allow the image to settle in itself. So I think that's really good, but I gave it a commended instead of a highly commended. Next one. Oh, I've got control. I have to push forward, waiting for things to happen. Done it. Cool. This is, what have I said here? This is a successful image, and it tells a wonderful story. This person is obviously really excited about what's happened, and you can see the enthusiasm in the face. It's this nicely lit. You can see into what's happening, and that's good. So technically it's good, the lighting's good, and the design's kind of good. And I think if you know this person, it makes perfect sense. You'll know about her, why you gave her the jigsaw puzzle for Christmas or whatever. There's a bunch of other stories to this that probably exist in your head that I don't have. And for that purpose, it makes more sense to me, say again, to you than it does to me in a competition. In a competition, you have to be successful to the anonymous audience who has no feeling or interaction with this person. So you really, in this case, my recommendation is to push the story harder and make it less about the person. So what's the story? The story is the jigsaw puzzle's been done and she's super happy about it. She's got yay done on the jigsaw puzzle itself. Here's a suggestion. Get in there really close to that yay done. Focus on yay done so that you've got half the frame filled up of jigsaw puzzle and yay done. You'd probably flip it up the other way so you could read it, and then have the person out of the focus in the background with a huge smile on their face. I think that still tells the story, but it becomes anonymous, and it becomes the sort of thing that's going to be successful in a competition more than something that relies on knowing the person and knowing that sort of backstory. Or equally, you could go the other way. So with perspective, you could get up really high and photograph down on top of them and have her looking up in an excited way. But there's a number of things that you could do that make it more, interesting from a photographic, anonymous viewer point of view. Okay, next he says trying to do that. Lunar eclipse. Really successful technical exercise here. Now, the moon's bang on, it's super sharp. The little dots of the stars are small enough you haven't got star streaks, so it's kind of been done really well. The person who made this image needs to go to John's moving an image around in a space thing, because what you've got here is a big dot. If I can get the right button. Whoop, no, go back. A big dot on the end of the frame. What would happen if that dot was in the middle? That would change things. What would happen if the dot was up in that corner? That would change things. What would happen if the dot was down here? That would change things. There's a whole bunch of things you could do with this dot and the black background to make this more interesting. You've put it slightly off center in the middle. That's where we need to evolve the design things that John's going to talk about later on. So come and have a think about that, but then go back home now with this image and do all those sort of things. Make a bunch of virtual copies in Lightroom if you're happy to do that, and shift the crop around. Make it a square crop with a big moon in the middle. Make it a square crop with the moon to one side. Make it a long, thin crop with the moon where it is. There's a bunch of things you can do and try to develop this into something that's graphically more interesting, and there's a bit of implied story. And that's where I think this has fallen short. It's brilliant technically, it's just presented in a sort of a fairly static way. See if we can move on. Right, the next one is shortcut. Great PJ kind of action. It's really well done here. It's sharp, it's got a peak of action. There's a relatively simple but interesting background that kind of works within there. But I look at this and what I'm saying is, what is the story? And for me, the story here is the chilled out sheep. That's all I can see is the sheep's going, oh, get on with this, do it again. And the reason that's the story is because I can sort of half see the man and half not see him. The problem is when there's a human in the frame that we can identify as the human, we want to relate to the human. So to make this about the chilled out sheep, my suggestion is to downplay the human a bit. And then I think that would become a completely different picture. So if we cropped across here and got most of the human out, and we just got in really tight in here somewhere, and so we had his arms, the fact we still knew he was human, but it was mainly about the arms and the chilled sheep, a whole new story comes to life. And that's the story that I kind of saw when I looked at this. I wanted it to be about the shearer when I first looked at it because of the way it's framed, but I couldn't see him, so it wasn't. Next one. Okay, this one is Waterfall Milford Sound, and I've done something different with this. Okay, you've got yourself between a kind of a rock and a hard place here. The interesting colour that comes across here and the whole bit about Fiordland is strongly there. It's obviously a windy day, and I'm assuming since you're in Milford Sound, you're out on the ferry or one of those things that roves around, and you looked at the wind, the waterfall. It feels like a somewhat overcast day, which has given us that colour which is fine, and we're also seeing the drifting, blowing water, which is kind of key. But what's happened, in order to get the drifting, blowing water, you've had a shutter speed to get the drift, and that's made the rest of it a bit soft. That's the problem. The greenery, it's not out of focus, it's just a bit soft. And it's a harsh, crunchy, gritty sort of a place that needs to be sharp. So you either need to go in there with a 0.002 of a second and make it crisp and sharp. The problem then becomes your water becomes frozen and you lose that element of it. So you're in a rock and a hard place. So perhaps that's a situation to experiment with a range of shutter speeds, and you might go and use this as an opportunity to merge two files. I would definitely be painting in a drifty waterfall over the rock thing to try and get the best of both worlds. Or if you're just going to be about the drifty water, then let go the greenery, because you're going to struggle to get that hard, and zoom right in close and just get that, make it all about the drama of the water. So lots of drama and good place, but just kind of ended up sort of halfway between the two. Undulating. I love this abstract that you've created here is really, really cool. I don't know what it is, but I think it's seaweed. That's what I concluded. But the point is, it doesn't matter. We've got these lovely undulating lines here that are parallel with each other. But when I look at it, this is kind of sharp and this one's a bit soft, so there's a flow that pulls me in. But when I sort of squint my eyes and go, where do I end up looking, and why is this not working for me? And I end up looking here, which is the kind of the brightest bit. There's also a bright bit up here which pulls me away. So this bit here is just, that's where I go to, because it's the brightest part. Again, this is a bit brighter in this projection than it was on my screen, so the rest of it was a little bit darker, and I was definitely pulled there more. And when you get pulled there, there's nothing but muddle. So I think you need to just, a great idea, great flow, great abstractness, but then think more about controlling the eye. Go, where's the eye going, and pull it to somewhere to make it work. I want to figure out a way to pull my eye up to that curve there. And it might be that you just darken this completely, just leave a hint of this, and that becomes brighter, so pulls my eye up. You need to get rid of that somehow by darkening it down or doing something. There's post-processing things you could do, or there's different views of this that you could make at the time. This one is resting. Love the drama, love the close-up viewpoint. Just watch the halos around the edge there, and there's definitely halos along there. Maybe it's less obvious from where you are, but they're definitely there. So whenever you do that sort of, up the contrast, give it a bit of clarity, do those sort of things, makes the image comes to life. But now go and do a square search on 200% zoomed in and search out those halos and paint them back in. The halos need to go, because they just give an unbalance of the amount of sort of crunchiness in there. But the other thought I had was, why can't I see all the boat? You've wandered up there. Why didn't you show me the whole thing? There's an implied bit up here that's kind of gone, and I personally feel the whole thing would be more complete if you were 2 meters back and the whole thing was there. Or hone in, the other thing that catches me, because it's written, that's an eye pull, and we're always going to see that bit about rata. I don't mind that, but maybe the picture is just right in close and it's just that, or a little bit about the fact that rata is lying on the sand or something like that. This view for me felt somewhere in the middle between trying to show me the whole picture and a zoom in, and it felt like an unnecessary zoom in this situation. Sunrise over Littleton. I love the colours, and I love the restful sense and feeling in this. The timing is really, really good. There's things in here that I absolutely adore. Firstly, the graduations in the sky, that's all controlled, but it goes from bright to darker over there, and we've got this smooth sort of flow out. That works really well. I love these patterns in the water. They work really well. And this little ridge line coming down there looks stunning. Just gives us a hint of the foreground, and we can see into the fact that the Littleton is there. And that gives me a restful feeling. The problem is this bit here that is not restful at all. So, you don't want to go and clone out the ship. That's kind of not the aim of the game. But I think framing this to give that sense of restfulness is what you've created with this colour. You've created a warm, encouraging, restful sense, and right on a sort of a third is this messy, contrasty, punchy thing that, unless the fact that it's punchy is a counterpunch, it's not working. It's not working because the whole message is more restful. So even a crop in here, that's a picture by itself. Or up here is a picture by itself. You could go there, sort of thing. There's lots of pictures in there that fit that restful theory. Lake Debico, somewhere in the Dolomites. It's dramatic and gritty, and once again, halos all the way along there. You can clearly even see the halos in there, the fact that that's overly pushed in light, and it goes all the way around there. Whenever you get this sort of thing, just be a little careful. As soon as the halos come in here, it's a pretty good indication that I think you've gone a step too far. When it comes to this picture, what I really like is this fact that we're drawn in, and this is a big arrow pointing through here, so the water's interesting. It points this way, and we come up here, and we get through the valley to this distant peak. That works really well. The clouds are cool. It just comes across as overpushed a little bit to me. And when I see those sort of highlight lines, you're always going to get a response which is probably not what you were looking for in terms of what people are after. You struggle to see past the crunchy highlights to get to the back bit, which is the exciting bit. Next one. Details in an old shed. It's sharp, it's crisp, it's technically great. The whole thing, has been done really well. The lighting's good. We've got dark, mysterious things in the shed, and everything else is exposed really well. But which details is my question. You said details in a shed. Is it the graffiti, and if it's that one or that one? Is it that really interesting window and its relationship between the window and the rest of the corrugated iron shed? Is it the cool roof? That little piece of the roof is interesting. The door itself, half falling off, is interesting. And then we've got this bit of chicken wire on one side. All of those things are kind of interesting, but they don't tie together as well as they want. I think if you're going to look at details, choose one or perhaps two that relate to them, and then build a picture back out from there. So get in closer and create a more in-depth picture. I think you'll have something which is more easily read. So as I said, you're standing there, and for you'd like this because you remember this interesting shed and walking around it and all the details and all that stuff. So you've decided to show us as many of the details as possible, which works for you, but it doesn't work for me because I wasn't there. This is the General Post Office in Melbourne. And again, black and white's great. You've got yourself a really interesting point of view. You're looking down on it, so we're kind of away and out of the shopping centre sort of thing, or whatever it is down there. And I love these converging lines coming down here. And it's a balanced point of view, but the balance is put off by this damn thing here. I think it's the lift shaft. And I doubt that you're going to clone the lift shaft out or move the lift shaft. So perhaps you need to think about, okay, how can we make that work, or how can we minimize it? And if you went down the other end and photographed back this way, the same thing, you might have a little lift shaft at the far end that would create less of a balanced tension. The problem is that it's right in the front here. It's about 25% of the frame, and it's destroying the symmetry and the pattern, which the rest of the thing is kind of about. So recompose it. Be aware of what's destroying your symmetry when you're there, and try and find a way of re-establishing the symmetry, making the story about the symmetry. Seagull. The eye and the beak are sharp. You've singled them out from for a portrait shot of the bird. The colour noise that's there, it's less, there's quite a bit more colour noise when I saw it at home, but there's definitely, you can see the noise in the background. That it feels like a crop from within a picture to achieve that. So there's a technical aspect to that. I enjoy the simple background, and I enjoy the slightly unusual blue colour balance that you've put in there. But I think you need to treat this as a portrait of the bird, and as a portrait of the bird, I think you need to try and tell us a little about its character. Just build on it a little bit more. There's some technical things that are working, but now I think you need to use your design things that you're learning to create a story about that seagull as it exists by itself. Right. Find this. Golden hour tussocks. There's lots of bands of interest here, and that creates a depth. So there's bands here, we've got the bright light, we've got the water, we've got this bit here. Again, more contrasty on my monitor, but there was a really contrasty area around, you can see where that sun's shining there. That was much punchier and darker and crisper, and then we go a dark silhouette a bit, and then we get all the way back to the mountains and the sky. So there is a bunch of interesting stuff that allows me to rove up and down there. When it's a little bit darker and contrastier, this bit was really strong and a little bit overpowering because that's where most of the light is. I think you could crop about there, and you've still got enough of that to reduce the dominance to allow me to get past it more easily. I struggled to visually get past it. And then there needs to be something to hold me and to push me in the place to go. I actually would, if this lit bit area was stronger and there was a tractor in there or a tree or anything, you just need to choose a subject and make it the sort of the eye pull place, so that I can keep coming back to that eye pull place and then explore the various zones that you've presented to me. So it just needed a step more. Morning mist. Is the mist the main thing of this picture? The mist is really interesting, but what's the main thing? The thing that pulls me the most is this tree. Right on the edge of the frame, it's created a tension because it's on the edge of the frame, which I'm fine with that. If that's what you're trying to tell me a story about, that's fine. But I think you're trying to tell me about this here. And that probably comes from the title. So something I meant to say a little bit earlier. Use the title as an opportunity to give the judge a hint about what it is that you're looking at. So you've called it mist, so I'm going, this person is trying to show me the mist. And I looked at it and went, the mist is not the main thing. So if I was going to make the mist the main thing, you might want to get rid of that tree, perhaps crop here, and this big empty space again is not adding to the story. Come down here, come across here, come up here, and then make something happen in here. Really lighten that up, and then create a little bit of an extra contrast in this little bit so I can kind of look through it. And then it becomes a story about mist. So there's a bit much there that pulled me away from your story. New life. There's a perfect focus, a simple background. I like the fact that you've looked at this Koru head and it's bang on. You've got it precisely on focus, so I can see the little hairs, and it's a relatively simple background. Where it sort of, I think, there's more potential here, is the fact that you've just presented it on on the third line as a portrait shop, as a straight vertical. I think there's potential for lots more interest if this was an oblique angle. And because it's an abstract background, you could make the frame like that if you wanted to. So you could have, an oblique angle of that. doesn't have to be that far, but you can see, I think a little bit of tilt off the vertical would just make the whole thing much more interesting and would allow me to hold and kind of stay there. Other little things, that bright area there could relatively easily be toned down so that it doesn't pull me so much. And that little sparkle right on the edge, again, a little sparkle on the edge is potentially problematic. That's something I recommend everybody does before you push the send on any images. Do an edge patrol right around the edge and look. Oh, that's obvious. Let's get rid of it. If you're looking at everything else, you don't necessarily see those things until you say, okay, step 5, edge patrol. And then, because judges do edge patrol, so that's how it is. Okay, these from here on in are the ones that I gave highly commended to. So this is something that I think is quite likely to get and accepted in a normal competition, just kind of as it stands. I can smell the smoke and I can, just feel what's going on here. There's lots of energy, and it's an interesting perspective that you've got here. But let's have another think while we're here. Here's an opportunity to look at the crowd over there. And I went, okay, how many people can I see with good cameras? And there's one there, there's one there. I think there was a couple over here and there's somebody up there. There's 5 or 6 people with zoom lenses and stuff. Who's got the best photo from this? Is it you or is it them? And I don't know. I reckon it'll be probably the person with the unique angle up high here. There's somebody down here who's got a camera. If they kneeled down and shot through there, what do you think they'd get? They'd get a whole bunch more of the car and they'd get a big billowing smoke up behind them and they'd find another perspective. You're standing on the other side, so it's hard to know what the layout is, but you're behind the fence. There's your fence. Firstly, you probably could have gone up a little bit and just got rid of that fence out of the frame, or you could have gone down and created more and more about it, because I actually think that tarmac is a really potentially interesting part of the picture. So there's lots of good things in here. There's lots that I like, but I'm just saying, next time you're there, push the zone a little bit, trying to find a different perspective. Wheels in wheels. This is quirky and interesting, and I just kind of love what you've done here. You've got in really close, and you can actually see the photographer there sneaking into the frame in an abstract way that there's kind of works. I super enjoy the fact that we've got this here, and then there's another little one of the same thing there, and that kind of works really well. I'm only making relatively small things, but there's a kind of a bluey colour on that white wheel, but probably because it's in behind the blue reflection of the car, you could probably brighten that up a little bit and take the blue out, and then edge patrol, we'll find this large blob here. You might fix that by cropping across there, or just darkening it would be fine, or telling generative fill to put something interesting in there. Put some grass in here and get rid of it. Well, I don't care what you do. It's an open competition. You can get rid of it however you like, but at the moment it pulls me away from up here, which is fabulous. Come on, next picture. This is called No People in the Street. Yeah, I really love this. I super enjoy the straight vertical pan. This is all about what John's talking about, how the vertical lines kind of line up, and there's other things that kind of happen in here. But going back to your title, No People in the Street, I read that and go, okay, this person is trying to draw me down here. There's a couple of things that pull me away from that, and one of them is the fact that I can see Birkenstock written over there. As soon as I can see some letters and I identify them and they're on the edge of the frame, they need to go. So crop down here, crop there, where maybe just take Birkenstock off by itself is probably enough, and that'll create the edge patrol thing. And then what's happening down here, yes, it's empty, but when I come looking down here, boom, up to this big bright bloody street light, ICM creates these sort of street lights here and there, but this frame is so flexible that you could clone that out in about 30 seconds and it's gone and nobody will know or care. And then it becomes this empty space here beside this, and then I'm allowed to, visually I can see myself looking up and down that alleyway, and the title, No People in the Street, kind of works for me better there. But as it is, I still think it would get an acceptance. I liked it. And this is the last one. There are so many levels of interest in here. Love in the Mist, it's called. This is pin sharp in the middle, but there's bits of things we can see across here. We've got little bubbles on these whole things. We've got these little spiky fronds. I don't know what sort of flower this is, but it's a pretty cool and interesting one. And you've captured it beautifully against a beautifully simple background. Pulls me right into that, and I just really love this picture. Again, though, when I do an edge patrol, take 2 seconds to darken that off and it's gone. There's another little bit here, little nebulous things that actually make a difference when they're gone. But this is a fantastic image and this is a great one to finish on. So that is the end. John, could you volunteer to come and read these things out, and I'll hand them out. So there's a bunch of, like I said, commended for everybody, but there's only a handful of you here, so we'll figure out what you do. And Diana, oh no, Diana's here. Come on, Diana, can you come and shake their hands? Can you just read that? We'll do it collectively. I looked at it, it's 9:10, and I thought, he's just given the, I don't know. Oh, this is the prints to start off.
Oh, yes. Do we have the prints?
I'll just keep going. It's that one. Oh, okay. Righto. Makes You Smile by Robin Johansson. Fiordland Valley by John McCall. Oh, there's two. There's another one by John, which is Tom Tit. So you can give them both in one go. And Misty Morning, Okarito Lagoon, and Heart of the Iris by Shirley Wilson. Oh, stay there, Shirley. And the next one is Rain Coming, Okarito Lagoon. Oh, no, that's too hard. So the next one, that's the one we've just done. Done It by Vince Morton. Lunar Eclipse in Christchurch, Simon Hayes. Oh. Shortcut by Carl Smith. Waterfall Milford Sound by John McCall. Next one's Undulating by Robin Johansson. Resting by Janine McIver. Looks like there were lots of people here. They just were too scared to put their hands up. Sunrise over Littleton, David Rice. Here's the Dolomites, Shirley Wilson. Details of the Old Shed by Penelope McCall. General Post Office Melbourne by Simon Hayes. Seagull by John McCall. Golden Hour Tussock by Penny McCall. Morning Mist by Janine McIver. Is it Creighton?
Creighton, I think.
Yeah. New Life by Dale Creighton. Burnout by Dale Creighton. Wheels and Wheels by Carl Smith. No People in the Street by Tim Dukametsky. And Love in the Mist by Robin Johansson. That's done. Righto, back with my MC hat on. I've got nothing to add other than say well done to all those C graders and stick those images in the real competitions next time. See you next week.